All right, this is one of those fantastic shots that shows an extreme macro close-up of an eyeball. And I'm going to play around with this and just see if we can enhance it and make it look a little more appealing and draw some more of the attention onto the actual eye itself, like around the pupil and the cornea, and maybe take a little bit of the luminance off the top of the eyelid because it's looking a little bit too hot. And that's kind of all that my eye, no pun intended, is drawn to at the moment. So we're going to fix that a little bit, maybe bring out a little bit of saturation in the eye there and just make it a little more exciting. So this clip was captured on a Red camera. I'm just going to go over my settings really quickly for y'all. So gearbox, bottom right, color management, drop down to DaVinci Y RGB color managed, like that. And then automatic color management should be off. Color processing mode, this is what I like to work in. HDR, DaVinci, wide gamut, intermediate, select that. And then your output color space, you can leave it at Rec. 709 2.4. But this does depend on how you've set up your monitor. So depending on how you've color calibrated the monitor that you are using, or if you have an external grading monitor, how did you calibrate that? Did you calibrate it at Rec. 709 2.2 or 2.4 or P3 DCI? So you really need to take that into account and set accordingly so that the output color space is matching what you are monitoring with. Okay, so I'm happy there. So now into the color page. Just taking a look at our shot here. Lovely. Now, I think the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to select my qualifier, pull up my vector scope, and I'm ensuring that I have click the little ellipsis here at the top right of the vector scope. Click that drop down menu. Make sure that you have display qualifier focus selected, because when you hover the qualifier over areas of the image, there will be a corresponding indicator on the vector scope down there to show you where that those pixels are living on the scope. So I am hovering this over a black area, which pupil is quite black, and I want that circle to live in the center of the crosshairs, which it already does. So I'm not really going to do too much more with that. Now I'm using my print light keys, which correspond with the offset control here, this slider, to adjust my exposure. I always like to adjust exposure with the offset initially. It's just the thing that I do. So I'm going to drop that down a little bit. I want this information in the eye here to sit somewhere. Let's pull up the waveform here. I want this to sit somewhere around 40, kind of like I'm doing a skin tone, just to make sure that it's bright enough that you can see all the detail. And we want to have enough luminance to bring out some color information as well. Okay, so now I'm going to make another node. So that's Option S. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a little mask here. So I'm selecting the window thing here, and I'm going to draw a circular mask around the eye, around the cornea. Excuse me if my parts of the eye vocabulary is not up to snuff. Okay, closing that off. Now I'm going to track it back and forth. Looking good. It's a good looking track. Always take a sip of coffee during your motion tracking. Now I'm just going to go back to the window functions here, and I'm going to make sure that I'm feathering a little bit, maybe somewhere around 8 in the inside and maybe around 4 on the outside. And then my softness, I'm happy with maybe, 2. Now, what I'm initially going to do here is dial up the saturation. I like to do that with the HSL curve. So I'm going to go to my curves function here. Then I'm going to switch on over to hue versus sat. And I'm just going to click on this line here and just drag it up. And I'm not looking at the skin here. I'm just looking at the eye and putting it up to a level of saturation that I think is, exciting. Now, I seem to have a blend of many colors in here. I'm picking up some orange, some green, some blue, even some reds. And while that's exciting and good for this individual with so many colors in their eye, what I want to do is create more of a singular tone that can have a little bit more impact when you look at this eye. Like I want it to feel like a solidified hue here that's really going to pop, that we can really punch a little bit more. So what I'm going to do, I've brought the saturation up. I'm going to bring up my color warper, and I'm not going to adjust any of the settings down there. What I'm going to do first is just bring everything over. I want to make this eye blue. So I'm going to take the ends of this web here, drag it over to the blue area. We're going to see how far this will let us push. If it doesn't work, we're going to come back. This is all experimental. I'm just experimenting with you guys here. So now, see how I've gone all the way over here with the web, and it just, you can tell right away it's just not working that well. Bring it slightly back down towards more of a neutral place. And just mess around until you have nice looking color that isn't getting noisy, no artifacting. And I'm trying to keep it all somewhat aligned in the same area. Oh, green's nice too. Look at that. I'm going to do blue because I have blue eyes. So I'm biased. I think blue be the best. All right. Now, I'm going to mess with that a little bit more. Same node. I'm going to go to hue versus luminance in my HSL curves. I'm just going to drop that down a little bit. And you know what? That is interesting. Interesting, yes. Getting a little bit of noise though with that HSL. So I'm going to back that up. The blue channel is very noisy. Keep in mind, you got to be careful with it. Actually, what I might do here is apply some noise reduction just in that blue area. Just a little bit. Look at that. Holy smoker doodles. Okay. So we got a nice blue eye going on there. Now, I've created a new node with Option S. I'm going to bring the alpha channel from node 2 over to node 3. And what I'm going to do now, pardon me, delete that. I'm going to right click node 2, add node, add outside node. So now this is still masked off the eye, the cornea, but now we're focusing on the outside area. So we're looking at the eyelids. And what we're going to try to do is just tone those down a little bit because a little bit nasty. So I'm going to start with saturation. I'm going to bring that down maybe 5 ticks. And then I'm going to use my primary color wheels. I'm just going to bring this stuff down. Just don't want it to be so contrasty. Before, after. I really want the focus to be on the eyeball itself. I think that is the shot here. Nobody really wants to pay attention. Like, look at the eyelashes. It's almost, it's so macro and so detailed that I find it a little bit gross, even, for lack of a better word. It's a little bit creepy. So detailed. So with that in mind, I'm going to stay on node 3 and I'm going to go over to my blur. I'm just going to see what it looks like if I bring in just a little bit of blur there. Just enough So you're not overdoing it, but it takes a little bit of the harshness away from the sharpness of those eyelashes. Very nice. Now I'm looking at this eye still, and the blue is kind of all over the place. I'm seeing purple. I'm seeing a little bit of green, a little bit of blue. So what I'm going to try to do with Node 4 is to compress those colors a little bit. So I'm going to qualify that area. Just the blue. Using my 3D qualifier, because I love it. And again, I'm going to draw a mask here. I'm going to do a preset circle because the eye be a circle. That will just speed things up for us. Track it back and forth. Always take a sip of coffee during your motion tracking. Delicious. Okay, looks like that is done. So now I have qualified the blue inside there. I'm going to add a color compressor, OFX, selecting my target color. I'm going to select, just for fun, a nice shade of blue, just to see what happens here. Now I'm going to compress. Whoa. Okay, since I selected a very saturated blue, I have to be very gentle on the adjustments here. Otherwise, it's going to look really weird. So very subtle on these adjustments. But look, so when I compress the hue, all of the purple in the image kind of disappears. And that's what I want for this. I just want it to be a singular color. Before, after. Now it's a very saturated blue, but it looks kind of cool. Like, I think in the world of film, this will pass. Creepy blue eye. So that's before, after. Starting point, where we're at now. It's amazing what you can do, isn't it? Now, of course, I like to always add a little halation. Just you can use the halation, OFX there, film grain, however you want to add it. I'm going to try with, what do I have? I have Film Convert Nitrate. That's a fun one. I'm going to throw that on. Great plugin. Excuse me. I kind of use like the preset, the default, and I'll dial down to Film Chroma like 30, Film Luma 30. I don't want to take away from what I've done. But I do love how they bring in grain. It just looks nice. Maybe this is a little too much, so I'll dial that down. So I don't want it to look like I shot it on 16 millimeter. It's just unnecessary. But the grain gives the image a little bit more life. You don't want it to feel too stale or CGI-like. It's not as enjoyable. So I'm happy with this. And I think what I want to do to make it just a little more dramatic, and this is how I'll end things off, I'm going to add a power window here. I'm going to create a rectangular shape, big it up, and I'm going to have this creating some darkness on the left side of the image here, just to bring a little more attention to the cornea, the pupil, just to make it a little more shadowy and dramatic. And I'm quite happy with that. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. and we'll get this up online. All right. So that's a simple one. So hope you enjoyed it. See you later.